Jesus saved this woman at a 7-Eleven. You're not going to believe this story. This miracle didn't happen in a church, but under the harsh lights of a convenience store. God isn't limited to sacred spaces. He moves in the ordinary, the everyday. Two women, strangers, connected by prayer, one seeking purpose, the other desperate for a sign. Their prayers collided in the most unexpected way, proving God hears every cry. Sometimes his instructions seem bizarre, but they unlock miracles. As you hear this story, open your heart. Miracles still happen, often disguised as simple acts of obedience. Sometimes a miracle is just a headstand in a parking lot. Our story begins with Sarah, an ordinary woman with an extraordinary willingness to be used by God. Her daily prayer was simple: Lord, use me today, let me be your hands and feet. On a quiet Tuesday evening, Sarah drove home, her heart open, her spirit listening. She didn't seek recognition, just a chance to serve. As she passed a 7-Eleven, she felt that familiar nudge. Use me, Lord, I am ready. She had no idea her willingness would soon be tested in a way she never imagined. Sarah's faith was built on trust, not logic. She believed God could use anyone, anywhere, even in a parking lot. She was simply a woman offering her day to a God who does extraordinary things with ordinary people, and tonight her prayer was about to be answered. As Sarah neared the 7-Eleven, a strange thought pressed on her heart. Pull in, get out, stand on your head. She almost laughed. Stand on her head here, in public? Embarrassment and doubt flooded her mind. Surely this couldn't be God, but the feeling persisted, gentle yet firm. Was this the answer to her prayer for purpose? It's easy to say yes to God when it makes sense, much harder when it feels foolish. Sarah's logical mind screamed no, but her heart whispered, what if this is God? She wrestled in silence, torn between dignity and obedience. The whisper wouldn't leave. Stand on your head. This was her moment of decision. Would she trust God, even if it meant looking ridiculous? Sometimes faith means stepping out, literally, on your head. Sarah took a deep breath, ready to obey. Heart pounding, Sarah flicked on her turn signal, the click echoing in the silent car. The night outside was thick with uncertainty, and her mind raced with questions she couldn't answer. Why here? Why now? She gripped the steering wheel, knuckles white as if holding onto something solid in a world that suddenly felt unsteady. She pulled into the lot, headlights sweeping across the empty spaces, illuminating the familiar green and red glow of the 7-Eleven sign. The world outside seemed ordinary, but inside Sarah felt anything but. She sat for a moment, hands trembling in her lap, and whispered a prayer. Okay, Lord, if this is you, I'll do it. Her words hung in the air, fragile and uncertain, but laced with hope. She had no idea what would happen next, only that she was being asked to trust. Stepping out, she felt every eye on her, though the lot was nearly empty. The cool night air hit her face, sharp and bracing. Fear and peace mingled inside her, swirling together in a strange electric calm. She took a shaky breath, willing her feet to move. She walked to a clear spot in the middle of the lot, the asphalt cold beneath her shoes. Her hands shook as she knelt down, palms pressed to the ground, feeling the roughness of the pavement. Every movement felt exposed, as if the whole world was watching, though no one seemed to notice. With a deep breath, she gathered her courage. With a wobble, she kicked her feet up, standing on her head under the bright lights. The world spun for a moment, her heart thundering in her chest, but she held steady, upside down and vulnerable. The world turned upside down, both literally and in her soul. The parking lot lights shimmered above her, now below, casting strange shadows that danced across her vision. Time seemed to slow, stretching out each second. For a few surreal moments she held the pose, a silent act of obedience. She felt exposed, foolish, and yet strangely free. In that upside-down stillness, she surrendered her pride, her fear, and her need to understand. Inside the store, just a few yards away, someone else was praying too, desperate, lost, and searching for a sign. Sarah had no idea her strange act was the answer to a desperate prayer just inside the store. Sometimes faith looks foolish even to ourselves, but in God's hands, foolishness becomes a miracle. What seems absurd to the world can be the very thing that brings hope to someone in need. The parking lot, once ordinary, now felt sacred, transformed by a single act of trust. Sarah's obedience was about to change everything. She didn't know it yet, but her willingness to look foolish was opening a door for grace to enter. Sometimes, the smallest acts of faith have the biggest impact. She stood on her head, unaware of the life she was saving, unaware of the ripple her obedience would send through the night. The world kept moving, cars passing by, people coming and going, but something extraordinary was happening in the quiet. And the miracle was already unfolding, quietly, beautifully, in the most unexpected way. Sometimes all it takes is one act of unquestioning obedience to change the course of a life forever. Inside the 7-Eleven, Maria wandered the aisles, lost in despair. The harsh fluorescent lights above did nothing to warm the cold ache inside her chest. Each step felt heavy, as if she was moving through water, her mind swirling with thoughts she couldn't escape. The shelves were lined with snacks and sodas, but to Maria they were just a blur, background noise to the storm raging within her. She wasn't shopping. She was searching for a reason to keep living. The world outside kept spinning, but inside, Maria felt like time had stopped. She clutched an empty basket, not because she needed groceries, but because she needed something, anything, to hold on to. Her eyes drifted over the shelves, but her heart was searching for hope, for a sign that her pain mattered to someone somewhere. Every hope had faded. She felt invisible, forgotten. The people who passed by didn't see her, not really. She was just another face in the crowd, another lost soul in the city's endless night. The loneliness pressed in, suffocating, as if the world had moved on and left her behind. In her purse was a note, and in her heart a final plea. God, if you're real, show me, give me a sign. She had written the words earlier, her handwriting shaky, unsure if anyone would ever read them. It was a message meant for heaven, a last-ditch hope that maybe, just maybe, she wasn't as alone as she felt. She needed something impossible, undeniable, not a vague feeling or a passing thought, but a miracle, something so strange, so out of the ordinary, that she couldn't dismiss it as coincidence. Her heart ached for proof that someone, anyone, was listening. Through tears, she whispered, "If you see me, make someone stand on their head in the parking lot, right now." Her voice trembled, barely audible above the hum of the refrigerators. It was a challenge, a dare to the universe, born from desperation and a longing to be seen. It was a desperate, almost mocking challenge to heaven. Maria didn't really expect an answer. She was angry, hurt, and tired of waiting for a sign that never seemed to come. But in that moment, she needed to believe that the impossible could happen, even if just for a second. If it happened, she'd believe God cared. If not, she'd walk away forever. The stakes felt impossibly high, but Maria was out of options. She pressed her forehead to the cool glass of the window, her breath fogging the pain as she stared out into the night, waiting for a miracle she didn't believe would come. Maria stared out the window, hope hanging by a thread. The parking lot was empty, silent except for the distant hum of traffic. Every second felt like an eternity, her heart pounding in her chest as she wondered if this would be the moment her life changed or ended. She waited, not expecting an answer. The minutes dragged on, each one heavier than the last. Doubt crept in, whispering that she was foolish to hope that miracles were for other people, not for her. But sometimes God answers in the most unexpected ways. Just as Maria was about to turn away, something caught her eye, a movement outside, strange and impossible. Her breath caught, and for the first time in a long while, a spark of hope flickered inside her. Her impossible sign was about to appear. In that moment, the world seemed to pause, as if holding its breath with her. Maria's heart raced, her eyes wide with disbelief and wonder, and her life would never be the same. In the quiet of aisle 3, Maria discovered that sometimes hope arrives when you least expect it, and that a single moment can change everything. Maria watched the parking lot, hope fading with every passing car. Then a sedan pulled in. A woman stepped out. Maria's heart pounded. Could this be it? She watched, breathless, as the woman walked to an open space. And then, impossibly, the woman placed her hands on the ground and stood on her head. Maria gasped, tears streaming down her face. It was real. God had heard her impossible prayer. The darkness shattered. God saw her, loved her, answered her. The sign wasn't subtle. It was a declaration. "I am here! I see you!" Maria's despair turned to awe and hope. In that moment, she knew she wasn't alone. God had moved heaven and earth for her. A headstand became a lifeline. The miracle was undeniable. Sarah, dizzy and embarrassed, started to leave when the store doors burst open. Maria ran out, tears streaming, and threw her arms around Sarah. Sarah froze, expecting anger or confusion, but Maria just sobbed. "You stood on your head!" Sarah, bewildered, apologized, but Maria shook her head. "You don't understand. I asked God for a sign, someone to stand on their head. You saved my life." The truth hit Sarah like a wave. 2 prayers, 2 strangers, 1 miracle. In that parking lot, embarrassment turned to awe. Maria's despair met Sarah's obedience, and hope was reborn. Sometimes the smallest act of faith is the answer to someone's desperate cry. The miracle wasn't the headstand, it was God's love, connecting 2 lives. In that moment, everything changed. 2 worlds collided, and both were transformed. The weight of Maria's words washed over Sarah. Her foolish act had saved a life. In that moment, the world seemed to pause, the hum of the parking lot fading into the background. Sarah realized that her willingness to do something so out of the ordinary, something that made no sense at all, had become the very thing that brought hope back to someone standing on the edge. Tears of gratitude and wonder flowed as they stood together, hands clasped under the parking lot lights. The air was thick with emotion, relief, disbelief, and a sense of connection that neither woman had expected when the night began. In that embrace, they found a shared strength, a bond forged in vulnerability and trust. "I just prayed for God to use me," Sarah whispered. Her voice trembled, not from fear but from awe at how her simple plea had been answered in such an unexpected way. She had no idea that her prayer would lead her here, to this sacred moment beneath the glow of streetlights. "Then I felt I had to stand on my head." Maria laughed through tears, the absurdity of the moment breaking through the heaviness. The laughter was healing, a release of pain and fear, and a celebration of the strange, beautiful way hope had found her. "You weren't crazy, you were listening." Sarah's reassurance was gentle but firm, a reminder that sometimes the most meaningful acts are the ones that defy logic. In that moment, Maria felt seen, not just by Sarah, but by something greater. Hope returned to Maria's heart. Her plan and her pain faded into the past. The darkness that had threatened to consume her was replaced by a quiet light, a sense that maybe, just maybe, she was not alone after all. She knew now God saw her, heard her, and loved her. The ache of loneliness was replaced by the warmth of being known, and the certainty that her life mattered. For Sarah, faith became more than belief. It became experience. She had always hoped her prayers mattered, but tonight she saw the evidence with her own eyes. Her faith was no longer just words or wishes, it was alive, active and powerful. Her simple prayer had become a miracle. In the most unlikely place, through the most unlikely action, she had witnessed the extraordinary power of obedience and compassion. Obedience didn't make sense, but it saved a life. Sometimes the call to act is quiet, almost ridiculous, but it is in those moments that the greatest changes can happen. Both women were changed. One rescued from despair, the other from doubt. Their lives, once marked by pain and uncertainty, now carried the marks of hope and courage. God's love had written a new story for them both. As they walked away together, the night no longer felt cold or empty, but full of promise and new beginnings. Sometimes faith is just saying yes. Even when it looks ridiculous, it's trusting that the smallest act of obedience can open the door to transformation, for ourselves and for others. And sometimes that yes is all God needs to work a miracle. In the end, it's not about understanding the plan, but about being willing to take the first step, no matter how strange it may seem. This isn't just Sarah and Maria's story, it's for all of us. God still works miracles, often in quiet, unexpected ways. Maybe you're like Maria, desperate for a sign, or like Sarah, longing to be used. Don't lose hope. Your prayers are heard, your tears are seen. God can use the smallest act of obedience to answer the biggest prayer. Listen for his voice, even if it leads you somewhere strange. Your simple yes could be someone else's miracle. Miracles aren't always dramatic. They're often hidden in the ordinary. Believe that God is still at work, weaving grace into your story. Open your heart, your eyes, your ears. You're never alone. God is with you, always working for your good. Sometimes a miracle is just a headstand away. If you believe God still does miracles, subscribe now and keep watch of the upcoming more videos.